official name of the house is the John C. and Augusta Koval Lewis House. John C. Was a wealthy lumber baron, as you all know, and he married the sister of his partner. In those days, you tended to marry people of your status, and he married Augusta. And the Kovals, one of the Kovals, William Koval, lived right over there in the White Swan. So that's the link there. The other big lumber name in this area here is the Staples, which is Jim Staples' house right next to the Hallman Playhouse. So you got the Staples, the Koval, and the Lewis. I mean, they're all right here. And not coincidentally, they're all buried next to each other up in the cemetery. And I was telling Lodell, I'm going to die here in Whitehall, and I'm getting buried out there too. And this house is going to kill me. Okay. When we bought the house in 2009, we didn't know what we were doing. We thought it was a very cool house. We knew that we wanted to live in Whitehall. We wanted to move here after we retired. And rather than buying a house that was kind of all done, we decided we wanted to buy a house that would have a little bit of work to be done. And so we thought it'd be a lot of fun to have a little project along the way. And so we really didn't know everything that we were going to get into. But this is John Lewis and his lovely wife, Augusta. And we did a lot of research to nominate the house to be on the National Register of Historic Places. That research was conducted, resources were from very many places, including the library, where the library keeps microfilm of the Whitehall Forum, which was the newspaper at the time. And there is also the history of Muskegon County, Michigan, with illustrations and bibliographical sketches of some of its prominent men and pioneers. And this is what we found there. It says John C. Lewis, lumberman, Whitehall, one of the wealthiest and most prominent citizens, is one who may be emphatically be termed a self-made man, one who has been singleness of purpose and steadiness of aim, united with industry and integrity, acquired wealth accompanied with the respect of his fellow citizens. His residence is prettily situated on Mears Avenue on a bluff overlooking the lake. Guess who wrote that? He did. So, yeah. The beautiful home, one of the finest in the locality, is the scene of many pleasant social reunions, and although his extensive business interests frequently required the absence of Mr. Lewis, he hastens his return to one of the most attractive spots on earth to him. Isn't that beautiful? I love it. So actually, this was part of our data to distinguish the house for its historical significance, along with a lot of other things. This is a sketch that maybe many of you have seen, and it's a pretty remarkable sketch. And if you really study it, you can see some really cool stuff. It doesn't really show up here real well, but the actual sketch, it's quite detailed. You can see John Lewis on the porch, standing there. I think this is his first daughter, Nettie, or Lizzie. I'm not sure if it's Nettie or Lizzie. You can see this beautiful carriage house here. All right. And you got tracks coming out where the carriage went. You got the boardwalk. You got a nice fence. You can see up here on the roof that it looks like it's striped. It had some chimneys. It had ironwork on the top. It had these fretworks in the gables, and so forth. And this was really one of our first only views of the house that, we wanted to know what it looked like when it was first built. And the guy that sketched this, we thought, well, he probably took a lot of liberties, so we didn't know what was real and what was not real. However, in the brevity section of the Whitehall Forum, they published almost on a weekly basis the progress for the building of the house. And there was details there that were also very helpful in understanding what each room was used for, how big it was then and it is today, and so forth. And this is just an example. Height is a clear 10.5 feet. Best use is made of the space by having but few divisions, leaving the rooms of good size, and so forth. I also found some very interesting befores and afters in this magazine. And I'm going to show you lots of befores and afters. So this one is Dyke's Beard Elixir. And you can see that it went before you take Dyke's Beard Elixir, and then after. Isn't that amazing? It works like magic and never fails. This is before and after of Alan's anti-fat. And, she's got a mustache. She must have used the beard elixir, too. And then after. So, one of the most, and probably, no, clearly the most important photo that was discovered is this one. This was in the Muskegon Museum, the Montague Museum. And Bob Lewis actually alerted us to that. Is he here? No? And this is a black and white photo. And we had the original. So when you look really, really close, you can really see a lot of detail. This isn't like a sketch or there's a lot of detail in this photo. And so we took it down to Paul Kleinfelter, and he took a really high resolution image of it and gave it to us. And so this has become really the way in which we know how to design, for example, the front porch, and I'll get into that. But here they are, okay, so, there they are standing, so I just zoomed in on them. And there's John and Augusta, and I think that's Nettie, and three of his help. And I can see other details that I'll point out. What's interesting about the help is that I think they're Native Americans. And because if you really look carefully, their noses are more distinguished and such. And so that was kind of interesting. The details around the corbels and the brackets, all of that was really important in reproducing the porch as you see it today. Up on the top, you can see now what contributed to those lines that I showed you on the sketch. It looked like it was striped. It's actually scalloped, rows of scalloped cedar shingles, and then a row of square shingles. Okay, so that's how that's why that sketch showed the stripes. There's also this fretwork here that is missing now, and we're working on that. And from this photo, we are trying to develop the design for the fretwork that will go back up. The issue that we're having is that because the photo's from below and on an angle, it's difficult to square it up to a 90 degrees. So we're spending a lot of time trying to figure that out. And then also the ironwork on top, we can see that clearly. And actually, when we were digging up the yard, we found quite a bit of it. So it was taken off, and we found I got a whole bunch of it actually. In the house, we found this thing. Does anybody know what this is?
Ear trumpet?
Yes. It is. It's an ear trumpet. That's very good. I thought it was like a kid's toy. And until I saw the movie The Curious Case of Benjamin Buttons. And he's using it going around listening. So I thought that was pretty cool. We also found some bottles and things like that. But we really didn't find any money. And that's what we really wanted to find. We didn't find any money. So this is another photo that we had to go by. This is about 1890, the best I can guess, based on the size of the trees. At this point, the house hasn't been changed. The front porch is still square. The fence is the same, and so forth. This is a photo that is down in the Pub 111 on the wall. And it was one of the, I was down there having a beer one day, and I saw it, and I go, oh, wow, that's my house. This is a postcard photo that's also been useful. Now, I got a date on it. It says 1915, and it shows Mears Avenue looking north, and the Lewis house is there on the left. And the postcard says, Dear Mary, received your card and would like very much to come up Saturday, but Glenn and Amelia Phelps are coming down Sunday, so we will have to stay at home. Love to all, Blanche. And it's written to Mrs. John Carlton in Rothbury, Michigan. There is a Blanche Koval, and I wondered if, and she would have been alive at this time, and I wondered if that's who might have sent this. But this was interesting because now if you look carefully, you see the porch changed. And now it's round, and it has round columns. So there's a huge, huge change to the house sometime between about the turn of the century or early 1890s and 1915. And Roger's hypothesis is that at the World's Fair in Chicago, there was a new kind of trend to have round porches. So just as trends come and go with home styles and interior and exterior decorating, round porches became the in thing and square porches were out. And so they went to a round porch. My hypothesis is that the square porch succumbed to the elements of the White Lake and probably a little bit of the Chicago World's Fair, and was it 1893?
1893.
Yeah, the White City. It was a huge, huge event. It was called the White City because it was the first time that electricity was being developed, and Westinghouse lit up the fair with Tesla, and they used alternating current. I don't know if you guys all know about that, DC and AC, and there was a big battle between Edison and Tesla. Okay, about 1950, we got this photo. This came from Lois Hildebrandt, and she gave us several photos. Actually, she didn't give them to us. I still need to return them to her. But this is a picture of the house when it was being used as a boarding house called Lakeview Rooms. And that is Mr. and Mrs. Hildebrandt, Rose and William Hildebrandt. And they are, now they bought the house in 1944 from John Lewis's daughter, Florence. And that's them there. And they took very good care of the house. In fact, I think they took exceptional care of the house. I look at some of the things and some of these pictures, and I think Mr. Hildebrandt really was devoted to the house. He seemed to be always kind of taking care of it. That was my perception of him. But he also did a lot of things that I kind of wish he didn't do. Like, I think the fretwork was removed, the iron railing, some other things. But that was the period of time, and so he was doing what he felt was the right thing to do during that period of time. This was the carriage house, so this was another photo. And actually, to me, the carriage house was as spectacular as the Lewis house. And I thought it was amazing. And I mean, the cupola on top is outstanding, and the structure mimics the style of the Lewis house. And so this, when we built this garage, we built it based on an inspiration from this photo, okay? And we're yet to put on the cupola on top. This is a picture of them actually taking down the carriage house. So that was interesting. There was a tragedy that occurred in the basement of this house, and that happened in 1960, in January. Mr. and Mrs. Hildebrandt were downstairs doing laundry, and a boiler system exploded, and the blast was so huge that it killed Mrs. Hildebrandt instantly. And Mr. Hildebrandt died a couple months later from the injuries. So it was an awful disaster that happened to them. Their children continued the boarding house for several years afterwards. But the blast was so big that it blew out the back wall, it blew out the back floor, it blew out windows. I mean, it was huge. This is the boiler. It was like 1/4 inch or 3/8 inch steel, and so the pressure that was built up was tremendous. And this is, in the basement, and that's, a picture shortly, right afterwards. We bought the house in September 2009, and this is what it looked like then. When we bought it, we knew there were foundation issues in the house. There were foundations in the house from the blast. It had pushed out the back wall, and there was leakage and other issues where the mortar had been deteriorating. And we had a decision to make. We either had to fix the foundation in the back and go with it, or we could put in a new foundation. So we elected to put in a new foundation. This is, again, another picture. Now I'm going to show you, here's a picture of it. Now we lifted the house up. So to make a new foundation, we had to lift the house up. And here it is from the back. Now it's sitting on oak cribbage. And after that, you pour new footings and new walls, and set the house back down and pour a new floor. So that's what we did. And now this is September, and we had squared off the front porch, you can see. Now the front porch is squared off. And now you can start, you see the bay window starting to materialize. The bay window, it gets kind of lost, when, the side porch had been enclosed. So there were rooms on each side here that they used, they rented these, but the bay window gets kind of like it's gone. And so the house really got a little deformed from its original situation. And so once you take those side rooms off and square off the porch, now the bay window starts to reappear. And I'll just flip through some of these as we go through. This is September of 2011. We are, as far as like painting, we removed the paint from the house using a shaving device. We saved all of the limestone that had been removed and put it back up. So the limestone that's around the house is the limestone that was there originally. So try to save that. One of the things I think that we have strived to do with the house is to retain and repair and not replace with this house. And in fact, the restoration that has been conducted has all been conducted in accordance with the U.S. Secretary of Interior's standards for rehabbing historic homes. That requires that when you do a renovation, you try to retain as much as you can. And so that's what we do. And I think that it's a really good thing. There's too many cases where, especially I'm a bit of when people want to replace old windows like the kind that are in this house, there's really no reason to replace them. They're just such fantastic windows. They do take work to rehab, but they're just amazing windows. So I just flipped through these. There we are trying to pose like John and Augusta. And now we've got brackets and such. And this is July of last year, and more July, priming and painting, and that's today. So now the bay window, I think, gets the glory that it really deserves. The porch is pretty darn close to the way it was, and the shingles on the roof, we put the square, and we put scallop and square and scallop, the windows we're working on now. This is some pictures of the windows. These are pretty big. They're about 7 foot total length in windows, and they're traditional double hung windows with weights and ropes, and so we cleaned them all up and got all the old paint off of them and painted them, and we're going with black sashes. And you might have seen this. This was our situation for a while we had the windows out, and then we finally got to get the windows back in, and we can operate them and like they were supposed to be operated, and they work great. I mean, they're working as well as they did when they were first put in. You put the stops nice and close and everything, and they're a wonderful, wonderful invention. The double hung window was invented by the French in the 1400s, and the basic principle is exactly the same as it was back then. I can give you some snapshots of the house. I don't know how well these are going to come out. This is a bedroom upstairs when we bought the house. It's actually in pretty good shape. All the floors were really nice. The radiators all worked. The trim was all there, and so forth. This particular room, though, we turned into a kind of a very modern, not modern, but deluxe spa type bathroom. So there's a clawfoot tub, a pedestal sink. There will be a chair there. There's a walk-in shower. There's a toilet right here, and this is going to be a 4-bedroom B&B at some point. This is the kitchen when we bought it. This is there was a stove here. This is a cupboard. This is a door, side door, and we took out the wall and opened this all up, and that's what it looks like today. And it's a little dark. And this is the kitchen too. We had the spray foam insulation put in, so the house is quite insulated now, so that's really good. And this is the kitchen today. So, before Allen's anti-fat, after Allen's anti-fat. So what's next? Well, we got just a little bit more to do. Basically, though, we got skirting, the gable work that I was mentioning, the fretwork, the iron work, if we can get to it. We've got railings to put on. And then we got a driveway coming in and sidewalks, and actually that work's coming very soon, I think next week. Landscaping, right now, all the grass has been treated with Roundup, so we're going to be seeding pretty soon. And Debbie actually found some wonderful wrought iron fencing actually down in Cincinnati, where we're from. And the fencing was on a person's piece of property west of Cincinnati. And he had got this fence from the St. Bernard Cemetery in St. Bernard, Ohio, which is right there in Cincinnati. And there is 108 sections of this fencing. Each section is 8 foot long by about 4.5 foot high. And each section weighs 230 pounds. And we hauled it up here. It sat out here, maybe you remember it, for a long time. It's now over in Montague what's the name of Brad's business? Custom Iron Solutions. And it's all been sandblasted and powder coated, and as soon as we get the landscaping done and such, we'll be putting that up. And I think that once we get that done, then the outside is going to look finally pretty much done. What did you want to say?
You're good. You got it. You said it all. No, you're standing. Keep with your presentation.
Well, I do want to say that Debbie, she has been, so wonderful in the whole process. And works really, really hard. She's got a great attitude. I mean, this has been our joy to do this, actually. So we still got a lot of work to do, but it's going pretty well. But yeah, we're still married. I think we'll be married for a while. So thank you very much. If there's any questions. Are there any questions? If just quickies, yeah.
When will the indoor tour be?
As I said to Lloydell earlier, we don't answer when questions. We only answer who, what, why, and where questions. I've answered so many when questions wrong that I can't answer when questions anymore. I'm sorry. Okay, you have a what, who, what, where, why question?
How about a will? Will there be an indoor tour someday?
Oh, will there be an indoor tour someday? Yes.
Someday.
When? I don't know. Okay. If not, if you'd like, I'll be happy just to do a walk around on the sidewalk, and if there's any questions, I can just point out a few of the things like that, and such. That's what I said, on the sidewalk, yeah. Okay.
Mr. Kasner's doing this. What's up?
Well, they forgot something.
What do we
Candles
forget?
in George's Market. The folks could call up, and one of my kids would go down and get it, and power, or paid on payday, would pay the bill. All they had to do was call, and somebody would come up, but wouldn't give anything to them unless the mother called first.
Historian himself. Oscar, it's nice seeing you tonight. Oscar has a lot of CDs down the whole Hokey Pokey. He does a lot of this programming for the Historical Society in the area, so it's nice to see you, Oscar. Does anybody have anything else? Oh, Mr. Ullman.
I just want to say that Oscar has made copies. Joe Pitkin interviewed a lot of the Sylvan Beach people, and sadly a lot of the people he interviewed are gone now. But I ended up with a set of those interviews. Oscar has put them on DVDs, and he has them at Hokey Pokey if you'd like to buy one. He's going to throw a little of the money to the Historical Society and keep a little for his costs and expenses. And fortunately, the people that originally made copies, the Kobe Place Productions, are gone, and they lost their sets. So fortunately, there's a man sitting over there that's been bugging me for a decade and a half to do something, find him, and I did and got him to Oscar. If you're interested, you can go down there and pick some out and buy them because the society will get a little bit out of it.
Okay,
That's all.
Thanks, Norm. John?
I just want to say my very special guest today is Lois Hildebrandt, who lived here in this fine house, raised her family here, and her daughter is my sister-in-law. So Lois is here tonight. So.
Does anybody else have anything?
I got one quick thing about George's Market.
Okay, Coach.
George Morse was my scoutmaster, and I also delivered newspapers to George's Market and to this house. In fact, the one day I'll never forget delivering papers was when Carol D. Bradley went down. Horrible storm. And I remember walking backwards down the middle of Mears Avenue because there weren't any cars out, only fools would be out. And George Morse stood in the front by his cash register, if you remember how that store was set up, and he could tell you as the sun went north and south, because, you know, it faces west. And he'd say, 2 weeks from now, the sun will be there. And then he'd say, in a month from now, it'll be there. And I thought, yeah. And he stood there for so many years, he knew where that sun was going to be on what day. It was just kind of amazing.
Thank you, Norm. Anybody else have anything?
Yeah, I think did we want to take a walk around the outside?
I'm going to turn it over to Greg and Debbie here in just a minute.
Perhaps people ought to know who to pay if they want them to pay for their membership tonight.
Oh,
Is Jim here?
right here, Tom Lohman.
That's for next year, right? You pay
Yes.
tonight, you got
That's
next year.
correct. That'd be membership for next year.
You get the rest of this year, and what a deal.
Did we get some membership forms filled out tonight? No one's? Good, thank you, thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'm going to turn it back over to Greg and Debbie. Remember, there's coffee, refreshments back there for you. Please enjoy it. And Greg and Debbie are going to do a little tour or answer any questions that you might have. And thanks again, everybody, for coming out tonight. Greg?